If you're watching this video, you're probably familiar with these two guys. Spongebob Squarepants and Squidward Tortellini. Wait, it appears I have made a slight error in pronunciation. The real characters are well, you know who they are. For SpongeBob, Squidward is basically his second best friend after Patrick. And for Squidward, despite how much he may pretend to hate SpongeBob, he really is his best friend. And he might not be a great friend to SpongeBob, but I think he's actually a better friend to him than Patrick is. This might be one of my hotter SpongeBob takes, but I'm going to make my case regardless. So this is why Squidward Tentacles is a better friend than Patrick Star. To make this argument, I'm first going to talk about all the times Patrick was a bad friend to SpongeBob, starting with the episode Driven to Tears. I discussed this episode in my previous video about the himboification of Patrick, so be sure to check that out after you finish watching this one, of course. Either way, this episode is a pretty clear example of Patrick just straight up being a dick. Honestly, I think I was too nice to him in my previous video. Like, Patrick gets his boating license and then happens to win a boat in the process, and for the rest of the episode, he basically rubs that in SpongeBob's face. At one point, he literally rubs his license in SpongeBob's face. I don't think he was doing this intentionally at the start of the episode, but by the end of it, it certainly becomes a lot harder to give him the benefit of the doubt. Like I said in my previous video, Patrick should have been a lot more sensitive with SpongeBob, considering the fact that SpongeBob is insecure about the fact that he can't get his license. If anything, he should have taken this as an opportunity to help SpongeBob get his license. Then again, when he actually did do that in the episode Boating School, he actually just ended up helping SpongeBob cheat on his driver's test, which isn't really helping his case. Granted, I think that this incident was largely on SpongeBob, as he should have known what they were going to do was cheating, but I digress. Another incident that I don't see many people talk about when it comes to Patrick and SpongeBob's relationship is in the episode Rock Bottom. At the very end of the episode, we see Patrick riding on a bus on his way back to Rock Bottom to save him, but the fact that they even got separated in the first place is what stands out to me. If you've ever ridden on a bus before, you would know that there's an etiquette that comes with it, including holding the door. It's like waiting for an elevator. If you see someone running towards it when the door is open, it is common courtesy to hold the door. And the same goes for buses. Patrick knew that SpongeBob needed to return to Bikini Bottom with him. He knew that he needed to get on that bus, and yet when the bus arrived, instead of trying to get his attention and hold the door for him, he just gets on and yells at him after the bus is already driving away. I'm not going to let him use ignorance as an excuse here. That was a dick move. While it is admirable that he attempted to go back to save him at the end of the episode, that does not change the fact that he left his best friend stranded in an unfamiliar place in the middle of the night. That's a pretty good way to lose a good noodle star, if you ask me. Another time Patrick got SpongeBob into trouble came in the episode Sandy's Rocket, as he encouraged him to sneak on board despite SpongeBob's protests. To be fair to Patrick, at the end of the day, SpongeBob is responsible for his own actions, and he was the one who started the rocket, but at the very least, I think this is still an example of Patrick being a bad influence on SpongeBob, which isn't exactly something you want from your best friend. Something else you might not want your best friend to do is to copy you in every single shape, way, and form, the way Patrick does in the episode Big Pink Loser. Honestly, this episode always felt more like siblings fighting than friends to me. I guess because a lot of younger siblings grow up looking up to their older ones, so they try to copy them. It's a pretty common thing, I think. Regardless though, Patrick copying SpongeBob all day clearly ticks him off, but Patrick only seems to double down over and over. That's not very nice of him. In New Student Starfish, Patrick gets SpongeBob in trouble at boating school by talking with him as Mrs. Puff is trying to give a lecture. This is another instance where SpongeBob has to be accountable for his own actions, but at the same time, he never would have been in that situation in the first place if Patrick didn't start it. Furthermore, SpongeBob is the one who gets in trouble for making a crude drawing of Mrs. Puff, despite the fact that it was actually Patrick who drew it. And yet Patrick just sat there and let SpongeBob take the fall for him. Real classy move, right?
Wrong!
All of this ultimately leads to SpongeBob losing one of his good noodle stars too, which is a pretty big deal to him. I guess in this case, Patrick kind of makes up for it since he ultimately helps SpongeBob get that good noodle star back by saving Roger. But again, all of this could have been avoided if Patrick just didn't randomly decide to come to boating school for one day. Although, if he didn't do that, then there wouldn't be an episode, I guess. Perhaps the most infamous instance of Patrick being a bad friend to SpongeBob comes in the episode I'm Was Stupid. Don't get me wrong, this is a classic episode, it's very funny, and I imagine it will be fairly high on my list when I actually get around to ranking all the episodes. But that being said, this episode is certainly not a good look for Patrick. When SpongeBob offers to help him impress his parents, Patrick is elated and they start making a plan right away, and at first, things seem to be going pretty well. Patrick's parents seem to get a better appreciation for their son as SpongeBob acts like an idiot to make him look smart by comparison, which was exactly their goal, so mission accomplished, right? I mean, technically, sure, Patrick accomplished his goal of impressing his parents, but at what cost? SpongeBob was clearly willing to play dumb to help his friend out, but this put him in a vulnerable position, and instead of treading lightly and protecting his friend in that vulnerable state, Patrick took advantage of the situation to make fun of him. For instance, he asks SpongeBob if he has any mascara he can borrow, implying that SpongeBob wears makeup. First of all, I just want to say, there is absolutely nothing wrong with a man wearing makeup. I don't wear makeup myself very often, but I like to put on a little guy liner every once in a while. Luckily for me, I don't have any friends who would make fun of me for that. If I did, that is something that I would not tolerate, so they would either change their behavior or not be my friend anymore. SpongeBob seems to be a bit more forgiving than I am, although I can't think of another instance where Patrick made fun of him for wearing makeup. Regardless, this is just one of the mean things Patrick does to SpongeBob in the episode. He also makes fun of his appearance and the fact that he lives in a pineapple, neither of which have anything to do with him being dumb, so it's pretty obvious to me that Patrick completely lost the plot here and was just enjoying insulting his best friend. Although we did get this line from it that I quote all the time.
He lives in a fruit?
That's unhealthy.
As poorly as Patrick treats SpongeBob in I'm Was Stupid, it's arguably not the worst look for him in the early seasons. Rather, that honor goes to the episode Rockabye Bivalve when Patrick puts all the parenting duties on SpongeBob while he watches TV at home all day, pretending to be at work. I mean, he repeatedly promises SpongeBob that he'll take care of Junior every day he gets home, but he just keeps pushing it off so he can watch more TV. Making matters worse is the fact that he pretends like his work was really tough to get SpongeBob off his back. This is straight up manipulation and abuse, if you ask me. With all of that being said, Patrick being a bad friend is just one half of this argument. Now let's take a look at a few times Squidward was a good friend to SpongeBob. I'll start off with the episode Prehiberation Week. This might not be an episode that immediately comes to mind when talking about Squidward being a good friend, but allow me to explain. In the episode, Sandy believes that SpongeBob has gone missing, so she organizes a search party to look for him. Who was part of that search party? That's right, Squidward Tortellini. Squidward Tentacles. Tennis balls.
That's tentacles!
My point is, Squidward is part of the search party, okay? And where's Patrick during all of this? That's actually a pretty good question. We know that SpongeBob was hiding under Patrick's rock the whole time, but we also know that they were searching for him for multiple days thanks to this line from Squidward himself.
How about a break? We've been at it for days!
Patrick doesn't show up until the very end of the episode when he returns to his rock. So where was he? It's almost like he was intentionally avoiding everyone to get out of joining the search party. Perhaps one of the most famous instances of Squidward being a good friend to SpongeBob comes in one of the best episodes of all time, Dying for Pie. Squidward spends the entire day with SpongeBob despite the fact that he supposedly hates him to give him one last good day on Earth before he explodes. At first, it seems like he does this mainly out of pity and because Mr. Krabs told him to, but by the end of it, he is genuinely upset that SpongeBob is about to die. He even cries about it. Granted, he is also kinda self-serving about it, but I'll allow it. I think if Patrick knew SpongeBob had one day left to live, he would probably spend it with him too, but hey, that's not what happened in the episode. He should have known Squidward was gonna accidentally give him a pie-shaped bomb. It's so obvious.
It's first grade, SpongeBob.
Another episode where I think Squidward deserves some credit for being a good friend to SpongeBob is Squid on Strike. This might sound a little counterintuitive as Squidward ultimately gets SpongeBob fired in the episode, but he was honestly doing a good thing for both of them. Obviously, Mr. Krabs does not compensate his employees fairly, and while that is obvious to Squidward and the rest of us, SpongeBob seems ignorant to this fact most of the time, and even when he does seem to be aware of it, it doesn't seem to bother him. This leads me to believe that SpongeBob might have a hard time standing up for himself. I mean, he definitely has problems setting boundaries. We see this in episodes like Overbooked, where he tries to fulfill commitments to Mr. Krabs, Patrick, and Sandy all at the same time. Personally, this is something I have also struggled with, but I think I have a bit more self-awareness than SpongeBob. Either way, there have been plenty of times in my life where I would have loved for someone else to be there to help me set boundaries, so I think that Squidward did in this episode is very honorable. Now that brings me to pizza delivery. You knew I had to talk about this episode in this video, right? Not only is this one of the most iconic episodes of the entire show, but it also has one of Squidward's best moments. You already know what I'm talking about, the scene where he shoves the pizza in the customer's face. I've already referenced this episode several times since creating this channel because I think this scene is really important to understanding SpongeBob and Squidward's relationship. This is the first time we see Squidward stand up for SpongeBob on the show, and while he does stand up for him in other ways in later episodes, I don't think any of those instances really compare to this one. To me, Squidward shoving the pizza in the customer's face for no other reason than the fact that he made SpongeBob cry shows that he really does care about SpongeBob on a pretty deep level. It shows a certain level of loyalty that one might expect from a close friend. As famous as the moment in pizza delivery is, though, I don't think it is Squidward's best moment with SpongeBob. Rather, that would come in the episode Christmas Who. Squidward effectively giving up all of his earthly possessions just to cheer up SpongeBob after Santa Claus didn't come to Bikini Bottom is probably one of the most selfless things we ever see any of the characters on the show do. This goes far beyond just being a good friend. It shows a level of commitment and dedication that only someone who is very close to SpongeBob could have. Honestly, we don't really see Patrick show that level of commitment to SpongeBob very often at all. The best example I can think of is in the SpongeBob movie, where he admittedly puts his life on the line to help him, which does make up for a lot of his shortcomings, but I just can't help but feel like SpongeBob deserves better from Patrick on a more consistent basis. If you want more in-depth analysis of Patrick as a character, you can click on this video that should be appearing on your screen now. That being said, that is all for this one. Thank you so much for watching. Take care, I'll catch you next time, and as always, never forget to be yourself.